Picture this: a packed Chicago courtroom on a gray October morning. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead like angry bees. Everyone's waiting for the usual rubber stamp hearing, another foster kid, another placement review. The judge, an older black man named Harlan Whitaker, adjusts his glasses and opens a thick manila file. The room is quiet enough to hear the papers rustle. Then his face changes. His eyebrows lift. His jaw tightens. He reads one page twice. The court reporter's fingers pause above the keys. The foster mother in the front row, Gloria Thompson, shifts in her seat like the wooden bench just burned her. Her 14-year-old biological son, Tyrone, scrolls on his phone, oblivious. And in the back row, a skinny black boy named Jamal J. Hayes sits ramrod straight, hands folded so tight his knuckles ache. Jay hasn't eaten since yesterday's lunch scraps. His stomach is a quiet war zone. But right now, the only thing louder than his hunger is the fear that this file, the one the judge is reading, might finally speak for him. This is the story of how one boy's silent suffering finally found its voice. Let me take you back. Jay was 6 the night everything shattered. His mother, Denise Hayes, was a single mom working 2 jobs on Chicago's South Side, day shift at the laundromat, nights cleaning offices. Their apartment was small but warm. Second-hand couch, family photos taped to the fridge, the smell of beans and rice that always meant, "We got enough." Denise would kiss Jay's forehead every night and whisper, "Baby, we might not have much, but we got each other. That's steak to me." Then came the car accident. A drunk driver ran a red light on 63rd Street. Denise was driving home from her second job. Jay was buckled in the back, half asleep. The impact flipped the car. His mother died instantly. Jay survived with a broken arm and a heart that would never quite heal the same way. There was no father listed on the birth certificate. Denise had raised him alone after the man who got her pregnant disappeared before Jay could walk. No grandparents stepped up. One had passed, the other lived in a nursing home with dementia. Child Protective Services placed Jay with a distant aunt, Gloria Thompson, his mother's second cousin. Blood, but barely. At first, the house on South Calumet Avenue felt like a miracle. 3 bedrooms, a backyard, hot meals on the table. Gloria was 42, worked as an office manager downtown, went to church every Sunday. She had one son, Tyrone, who was 8 at the time. "We'll make this work," Gloria told the social worker, smiling wide for the paperwork. "Family takes care of family." The first week, Jay slept in the guest room. Gloria bought him new sneakers, nothing fancy, but new. She let him call her Aunt Glow. Tyrone even shared his video games. Then the newness wore off. By the second month, Jay was moved to the unfinished basement. Concrete floor, 1 bare bulb, a twin mattress on a metal frame. "You're getting too old to share space with Tyrone," Gloria explained. "He needs his privacy." Jay didn't argue. He was an orphan now. Arguing felt like risking the only roof he had. The food difference started small. Tyrone got full plates, pancakes with butter and syrup, sausage links, orange juice. Jay got the heels of the bread, a splash of milk. "We're on a budget," Gloria would say, scraping leftovers into a Tupperware labeled Jay's. But the budget never seemed to stretch for Jay's clothes or school supplies the way it stretched for Tyrone's new Jordans or the family's Friday steak dinners. Steak nights became the cruelest ritual. Every Friday, Gloria would fire up the cast-iron skillet. The smell of searing ribeye, garlic, and butter would drift down the basement stairs like a taunt. Tyrone would set the table for two: real plates, cloth napkins, the good forks. Jay would stand at the kitchen sink washing dishes from the week, stomach growling so loud it echoed off the tile. When the steaks were plated, Gloria would call Jay over. "Here," she'd say, sliding a paper plate across the counter. On it, the grayish fat trimmings, a few burnt onion ends, maybe a spoonful of cold mashed potatoes scraped from the pot. "Eat up. Can't have you wasting away on my watch." Tyrone would smirk, cutting into his juicy center cut, juices running red. "Thanks, Ma. This is fire." Jay would take the plate, sit on the back steps, and chew slowly, trying not to cry. The fat was chewy, tasteless. Sometimes he'd save a piece under his pillow for the middle of the night when the hunger cramps woke him. He learned to stretch one meal into 3 days. He learned the sound of his own stomach so well, he could time his breathing to it. School became both escape and torture. At Carver Middle School, Jay was the kid in hand-me-downs 2 sizes too big, shoes with holes patched by cardboard. Tyrone was in the same building, 2 grades ahead, popular, loud, always with the newest backpack. When kids asked why Jay's clothes smelled like basement mildew, Tyrone would laugh. "That's my charity case cousin. Mom only keeps him 'cause the state pays her." Jay never fought back. Fighting meant a call home, and calls home meant Gloria's belt, or worse, no dinner at all. Instead, he buried himself in books. The library was warm. The librarian, Mrs. Patel, noticed how Jay lingered after the final bell, reading about lawyers and judges. "You've got a sharp mind, Jamal," she said once, slipping him an extra granola bar. "Don't let anyone dull it." But hunger dulled everything. Some days Jay's head throbbed so badly he couldn't focus on the page. Teachers wrote notes. "Jay seems distracted. Possible nutritional deficiency." Gloria would read the notes, crumple them, and say, "Boy, stop trying to make me look bad." Nights were the worst. Jay would lie on the thin mattress, concrete cold seeping through the sheet, listening to Tyrone upstairs playing Fortnite with friends, laughing, ordering DoorDash at midnight. Jay would press his fist into his stomach to quiet the growls and whisper to the dark, "Mama, I'm sorry I'm still here. I miss you so much, it hurts worse than being hungry." He kept a shoebox under the mattress, one photo of his mother smiling at his kindergarten graduation, a plastic ring she'd won for him at a carnival, a bus ticket stub from their last trip to the lake. On birthdays, he'd sneak out at dawn, walk 3 miles to the cemetery, sit by her grave, and talk. "They feed Tyrone steak, Mama. I get the scraps. But I'm still trying to make you proud." Years blurred. By 14, Jay was tall for his age, but thin, cheekbones sharp, wrists like twigs. He'd grown used to the basement damp that made his joints ache. He'd grown used to the way Gloria's eyes slid past him like he was furniture. He'd grown used to the way Tyrone would accidentally knock his plate off the counter, then laugh while Jay cleaned it up. But Jay never stopped dreaming. He joined the school basketball team, not because he was great, but because practice meant free snacks from the coach. Coach Williams, a tall black man with a voice like gravel, saw something in the quiet kid who never complained. "You got heart, Reed," he'd say, tossing Jay an extra Gatorade. "Heart beats talent every time." Jay started staying after practice to help mop the gym, anything to delay going home. He studied harder, aiming for straight A's so maybe, someday, he could become a judge. "Judges open files," he told his reflection in the cracked basement mirror. Judges make things right. Then came the day everything cracked open. It was a Thursday in October. Jay had fainted in gym class. The nurse took one look at his sunken eyes and called CPS. An investigation started. Gloria played the part perfectly at first. Church lady, loving aunt, I do everything I can. But the school records, the medical logs, the neighbor complaints about a boy sleeping in a basement all winter piled up. The hearing was scheduled for the following week. Jay sat in the back of the courtroom that gray morning, heart hammering. He expected the usual. Another warning, another 6 months of scraps. Gloria sat up front in her best Sunday dress, Tyrone beside her scrolling TikTok. The judge opened the file, and everything changed. Judge Whitaker's eyes moved down the pages. His expression hardened. "Mrs. Thompson," he said slowly, "this file contains more than just placement notes. It contains financial records from the Department of Children and Family Services. It contains bank statements. And it contains a sealed envelope from Jay's late mother's estate that was never delivered." The courtroom went still. Gloria's smile froze. The judge continued, voice steady but edged with steel. "According to these documents, Denise Hayes had a modest life insurance policy. Small, but enough. She named her son as beneficiary. The payout was $85,000. It was supposed to be held in trust for Jay's care, education, and future. Instead, Mrs. Thompson, you petitioned the court as kin guardian and received those funds 3 years ago. Every penny has been spent on luxury items for your biological son. Video game systems, designer clothes, even that new car in your driveway, while Jay ate table scraps and slept on concrete." Gasps rippled through the room. Tyrone's phone clattered to the floor. Jay felt the world tilt. $85,000. Enough for food, clothes, a real bed, maybe even college. Enough to have changed every hungry night. And Gloria had taken it. The judge kept reading. "Further, there are 8 documented reports of neglect over the last 4 years. School counselors, doctors, neighbors. You received monthly foster stipends meant for Jay's care. Those, too, appear to have been redirected. Mrs. Thompson, this is not oversight. This is theft from a child who had no one else." Gloria started to speak, voice trembling. "Your Honor, I took him in when no one else would. I sacrificed—" "Sacrificed?" Judge Whitaker cut her off, voice rising for the first time. "You fed this boy the scraps from your own son's plate while he watched you serve steak. You made him invisible in his own home. I have seen a lot of files in 30 years on this bench. This one breaks my heart." He looked directly at Jay. "Young man, stand up." Jay rose on shaky legs. The judge's eyes were kind. "Jamal Hayes, I am removing you from this placement immediately. Temporary custody will be granted to a verified emergency foster family that has been pre-screened. Further, the court will pursue restitution of the misappropriated funds. You will receive counseling, educational support, and a trust managed properly until you turn 18. Tears Jay had held back for 8 years finally spilled. Not loud sobs, just quiet rivers down his cheeks. For the first time in years, someone in authority had looked at him and seen a child, not a burden. Gloria was still protesting as the bailiff escorted her and Tyrone out. Tyrone didn't look at Jay once. That afternoon, Jay was driven to a new house on the north side. Warm, clean, run by an older couple, Mr. and Mrs. Morales, who had raised 3 foster kids of their own. Mrs. Morales cooked him a real meal: chicken, rice, vegetables, a tall glass of milk. No paper plate, no scraps. Jay ate slowly, savoring every bite, and when he finished, she asked gently, "Would you like seconds, sweetheart?" He cried again, right there at the table. The next months were a blur of healing. Counseling helped him name the pain: attachment trauma, toxic stress, the deep wound of feeling unwanted. He visited his mother's grave and told her everything. "They took the money, Mama, but the judge gave it back. I'm going to use it right." Coach Williams became a big brother. Mrs. Patel helped him apply for scholarships. Jay joined the debate team and argued cases about children's rights. He grew strong, physically and emotionally. The new family treated him like their own, but Jay never forgot where he came from. 2 years later, at 16, Jay stood in a different courtroom, this time as a speaker at a youth advocacy event. He wore a suit paid for with the first small disbursement from his restored trust. The crowd was quiet as he spoke. "I was the boy who ate scraps while my cousin ate steak," he said, voice steady. "I was the orphan who learned that blood doesn't always mean love. But I also learned that justice can come, even if it's late. That one person opening a file can open a future. If you're watching this and you feel invisible, hungry, cold, unwanted, keep breathing, keep dreaming. The right file, the right voice, the right heart can still find you." He paused, looking straight into the camera that would later go viral on YouTube. "And to every adult who has a child in their care, biological, foster, cousin, neighbor, remember this: every plate you set matters. Every bed you make matters. Every 'I see you' matters. Don't feed scraps to a child who deserves the whole table, because that child might grow up to open files of their own one day." The audience rose in a standing ovation. Jay went on to graduate high school with honors. The trust fund, now properly managed, paid for his first year at the University of Illinois at Chicago. He studied pre-law, aiming to become the judge who opens files for kids like he once was. He started a nonprofit called Whole Plate, mentoring foster youth and teaching families about equitable care. Tyrone and Gloria faded from his life. Restitution was paid, but Jay chose forgiveness. Not for them, but for the boy he refused to let them break. Years later, on the day Jay was sworn in as a youth court judge, he sat at his new bench and opened his first case file. Inside was a photo of a 9-year-old girl who reminded him of himself. Thin, big eyes, quiet fear. He read every word carefully, the way Judge Whitaker once had. Before he called the first witness, Jay whispered under his breath, "Mama, we made it." Then he looked at the scared little girl in the front row and said the words he had waited his whole life to say. "Sweetheart, I see you. And today, we're going to make sure the world does too." That, my friends, is the power of one file, one judge, one boy who refused to stay broken. If this story touched you, If it reminded you of someone, or maybe even yourself, hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear that hunger and loneliness don't get the last word. Subscribe for more real stories of resilience, justice, and the quiet heroes who open files and change lives. And remember, the next time you set a table, ask yourself whose plate is still empty. Because every child, every single one, deserves more than scraps.